And there he is, the cynosure of all eyes, Stormbird. Just a nice round sum. He cost as a yearling $1 million. Perfectly straightforward sum, and no surprise because he's by the most successful sire in the world, Northern Dancer, and out of a mare who has already produced some very good fillies. She herself won the Canadian Oaks, and she produced a flying 2-year-old called Ocean's Answer in 1978. Well, as you know, Stormbird, who in a moment is going to go behind that awful brick wall, which is a nuisance to us, is unbeaten in 4 races. The trouble is that we really can't measure his ability through the horses he's beaten, because Prince Echo and Band Practice, the last 2 horses he's beaten in Ireland, have both come over here, and they've both been well beaten. Prince Echo couldn't beat Gielgud at Doncaster, and Band Practice only finished 4th to Matterboy and Bell Bolide in the William Hill Middle Park. So that although, of course, Stormbird beat those horses easily, they haven't exactly paid him any compliments when they've come to this country. So now he's got to do it for himself, and Pat Edery has the chance, his first chance in Robert Sangster's colours in this country, although I don't need to tell you how well he took his chance on Detroit in the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe. Well, there was Stormbird, and here, surely, is the biggest danger. I don't know about Shirley, maybe Centurious would be as good, bigger danger, but this is Toagori Moo, which means my boy. He is named, Mrs. Audrey Munoz, his owner, has only named 2 horses. One was Elamana Moo, and the other was Toagori Moo. Of course, she's sold Elamana Moo to Lord Weinstock, and a very successful purchase that turned out to be, but brilliantly, Guy Harwood had managed in the meanwhile to buy her a suitable replacement. He paid 20,000 guineas for Toagori Moo, who's very unfashionably bred, exactly the opposite of Stormbird in that respect. He's by Tudor Music, out of a mare by Cracksman, and in fact his dam, believe it or not, won over hurdles. So that it's by no means a sort of Keeneland pedigree, but what it's produced, as you can see, is a big, strong, resolute colt. And he gallops the way he looks. He's won his last 3 races. He too wasn't paid. Yes, I beg your pardon, he has beaten a good horse, because Clear Verdict, no, admittedly, he met Clear Verdict when Clear Verdict was having his first run, but Toagori Moo beat him pretty comfortably, and since then Clear Verdict has won both his races, and in the last of them he beat Recitation, and Recitation then went over to France and won the Grand Criterium. So that by that measurement, Toagori Moo's form is first rate. He's also a stable companion of Recitation, and Guy Harwood has always made no secret of the fact that this fellow is well in front of the Grand Criterium winner. So, as Bruff says, this is without doubt the 2-year-old championship of Europe, and you're looking at the back view of Grevelstarkie on probably England's most hopeful candidate, Toagori Moo. And now here is Lester Piggott in the henbit colours of Mrs. Etty Plesh. Miss Waki was trained, of course, by Francois Boutin in France. He only cost a mere $150,000, not nearly as much as Northern Dancer, although it might seem quite a lot to you and me. And no surprise that he cost that. Well, I suppose you might have expected him to cost more, because he too is very well bred. His dams produced numerous winners over in America, and Miswaki has soon proved well worth the money. He won first time out the Yakoulef at Deauville, won it by 6 lengths very easily indeed. Then he got beat. He got beat by a filly, in fact, Ancient Regime, who had herself been beaten at Royal Ascot in the Queen Mary Stakes. But since then, Miswaki met Ancient Regime again in the Prix Morny at Deauville, and he won that 7-furlong race really well, staying on towards the end to beat Prince Mab with Ancient Regime well behind, so that he represents the best of the French 2-year-old form. Stormbird certainly represents the best of the Irish, and Toagori represents the best of the English. Let's see what the bookies think about it.
Miswaki shows at 6-1 in the betting, but Stormbird, the favourite, just gone to 5-4 on from 11-10 on, having opened at even money. Toagori Mu is 3-1 from 5-2. Centurious 11-2 from 5-1. Miswaki at 6s, and Kirtling the outsider 20-1, having opened at 25s, all 5 show. And now for Lingfield, the SP of the 3-5. First number 9 sweeping along at 9-1. Second number 8 straight Jocelyn 9-2. And third number 3 Nadabini also at 9-2. Diamond Edge, the 2-1 on favourite, unseated his rider, and 4 round.
Well, I'm glad to see that straight Jocelyn's got round, but this is Centurious, the full brother to the great Grundy. He cost 270,000 guineas as a yearling, and he too has lost no time in proving himself well worth the money. He was just beaten first time out, ran really well in fact at Sandown, beaten by Carla Glow, a stable companion of Toagori Mu and Recitation, trained like them by Guy Harwood. But Centurious ran really well that day, and next time at Ascot, ridden by Walter Swinburne Jr., who you've just heard talking about him, he put up an extraordinarily smooth and accomplished performance. So did Walter, because he looked to be very short of daylight a furlong out, but he didn't get in any kind of a flap. In fact, he sat cool as ice, just gave Centurious the office, cruised through, and was patting his neck as they went across the line. It was a very cool performance by the boy and by the horse, but we don't really know what the form amounts to. Priory Lane, who was 4th in that race, didn't run very well yesterday, didn't pay Centurious any compliments. I have no doubt that this is a good colt, but just possibly, I suppose this race may come plenty early enough in his career compared with the more experienced Stormbird, Toagori Mu and Miswaki. Nevertheless, a full brother to a great horse, Grundy, a horse with a future. Number 1, Centurious, was ridden today by Alan Bond because of the injury to Walter Swinburne. Now the betting.
Centurious easing in the market now, 6-1 from 11-2. Stormbird the favourites, 5-4 on. Toagori Mu out to 7-2 from 3-1. Centurious at 6s. Miswaki also at 6s. Kirtling 20-1, all 5 show.
And there's Kirtling, the mount of Willie Carson, trained by Harry Ragg for Mr. Moller. And Kirtling is by Grundy, a son of Centurious's great half-brother, and he looked early in his 2-year-old career. In fact, in his second race, he did something nobody else has done, because he beat Robellino in the Chesham Stakes at Ascot. Only just, but beat him fair and square, and Robellino has since then proved himself right up at the very top flight of the English 2-year-olds. Unfortunately, Kirtling's only other run was comparatively disappointing. He was beaten himself. He never really going like a winner in the Laurent Perrier Champagne at Doncaster. He was off the bit a long way out, and in the end finished nearly 3 lengths behind Gielgud, who, as you know, is a non-runner today, but who doesn't really appear to be absolutely top-class form. So Kirtling has something to find. Stormbird, who you see in the middle of the picture, has something to prove. Centurious and Alan Bond are also on trial, and Toagori, though, there's Leicester being loaded up with Miswaki, sure to be staying on towards the end. His last victory was over 7 furlongs. In he goes. I think that leaves Toagori Mu, doesn't it, John?
Yes, it does, John. He'll be the last of the quintet to go in.
What a good-looking horse. Just look at the power in that frame. He is a very long striding horse, but there they are, all in. Good luck to them. Over to you, John.
And they're under orders, and they're on their way. And the 5 break out on an even basis, but it's Toagori Mu, the fractional leader, from Kirtling on the far side. Then Pat Hedrick content to sit just in behind them with Stormbird. Then comes Miswaki running very freely, and Centurious. So they run a furlong. Dreville Starkey on Toagori Mu continues to lead from Stormbird on the near side, Kirtling on the far side. Then just in behind them comes Miswaki on the far side of Centurious. And so they've covered about 2 furlongs, and the order's still very much the same. Toagori Mu in the lead from Stormbird, the white cap on the near side. Then just in behind them then comes Miswaki with, on the near side, Centurious, and on the far side, Kirtling. And now Stormbird right up on sides, in fact, a fractional leader at this point. And so with Stormbird, a fractional leader from Toagori Mu, Kirtling on the far side. Then comes Miswaki and Centurious, the 5 runners closely grouped up together and going well within themselves. That's the order. Back to Raleigh in the grandstand.
Well, they're just past halfway, and it's Stormbird for Ireland. Ireland in the lead from the long-time leader Tewagori Mu second, but here comes Mizwaki for France just behind them. And over on the far side, belaying his odds, the extreme outsider Kirtling. At the moment, last of the five is Centurious, a 61 shot. But now the battle really on between Pat Edry on Stormbird and the white cap, and over on the far side, Greville Starkey on Tewagori Mu. At the distance now, these two have gone clear of the rest. Mizwaki in third, but he's got no chance. With the first two are locked in a desperate struggle and racing up towards the lines, just Stormbird from Tewagori Mu. The lonely down neck a little, so half a length perhaps. Stormbird's got to win it at the line. Stormbird wins the Dewhurst. Tewagori Mu second, and these two finish well clear of Mizwaki third, Kirtling fourth, and Centurious fifth. So they were right. This fellow is a good horse. How good remains to be seen, but he remains unbeaten. Stormbird it was, who was always a strong favourite for this race. Stormbird, who was unbeaten before coming here today, as were Vincent O'Brien's five previous Dewhurst winners when they contested this race. They were, of course, Nijinsky, who won the Triple Crown, the last horse to do so, Cellini, the Minstrel, Try My Best, and Monteverdi. So there he is, up on the horizon, the first $1 million yearling purchase to be seen racing in England, just pulling up at the top of the hill. So Pat Edry continues his triumphant ways in the Sangster colours, having won the Arc on the filly Detroit. Let's see him now winning the Dewhurst again, in replay this time, described by John Oaksey.
And without much doubt, these are two good horses, and one is slightly better than the other. I don't think they've gone a very great gallop. It'll be interesting to see the time, but as you can see, Tewagori Mu is the first to come under pressure. Mizwaki behind them is already beaten. From here, it's a match, and Stormbird is always just winning it. Pat Edry, as you see, does pick up his whip, gives Stormbird just 3 light slaps with his left hand. Now he puts it down. He feels confident enough to do that. And well, though Tewagori Mu has run on to the end and keeps running on to the end, nevertheless, there's no doubt that Stormbird has won strictly on merit. I've just heard, incidentally, that there's a steward's inquiry, believe it or not. We, of course, can't see how close the two were together as they raced home. I suppose it's just possible that they did come close together. No deviation was visible from on my monitor, certainly. It'll be very interesting to know what the reason for the steward's inquiry is. Certainly, Stormbird didn't appear to deviate like Monteverdi. Let's have another look, if we can. Could we see it again? Yes, we can. Now, you see, at this moment, there's good daylight between the two horses, but Bruff, who's in better view from me, rather thinks that Stormbird may have gone over towards Tewagori Mu, and now you come to look at it, they do now, at this stage, look a little bit closer together. Tewagori Mu appears to be running home perfectly straight. Pat Edry has got the whip in his left hand, which strictly speaking is the wrong hand, because he ought to have the whip between him and Tewagori Mu. But as I say, on this film you certainly wouldn't say that there was any deviation, certainly no sign of a bump, but just I think we can show a head-on shot, or yes, we can indeed. Now then, let's see what this shows. It's the first time I've seen this. Clear daylight between them at this moment, but this is where Pat uses his whip in his left hand. I suppose just possibly the gap does close. Maybe Stormbird did go a little bit over to his right, but I must say you wouldn't say from that picture that he's interfered with Tewagori Mu. However, the stewards have a much more direct head-on shot, which will give them every conceivable chance to decide whether anything's gone wrong. I must say, looking at that, I'd be a little bit surprised if anything does.
And the result, if it stands, the result of the William Hill Dewhurst Stakes 1980, it's first, number 9, Stormbird, bred in Canada by Mr. Eddie Taylor, owned by Mr. Robert Sangster, trained at Ballydoyle, Cashel, County Tipperary, Ireland, by Vincent O'Brien, and ridden by Pat Edry. So Pat has won the Dewhurst for the 3rd time. His previous wins were with Lunchtime in 1972 and then the Great Grundy 2 years later. Second was number 10, Tewagori Mu, owned by Mrs. Andrew Muinos, bred by the Rathduff Stud, trained by Guy Harwood and ridden by Greville Starkey. And third, number 5 for France, Mizwaki, owned by Madame Etty Plech, bred by Bruce Campbell and the Early Bird Stud in America, trained by Francois Boutin and ridden by Lester Piggott.
So Stormbird duly does win the Dewhurst. We'll bring you, of course, the result of the steward's inquiry as soon as we have it. But leave you with the thought that Tewagori Mu is the bigger. Maybe he will grow to be stronger next year. The issue is not perhaps yet over, but It's the biggest race of the 2-year-old calendar, and it was a great one. Nice to see you. See you tomorrow.